What is up, y'all? What is going on? It's Wednesday. That means we have live coaching today. I'm so excited to be here with you all. Oh my gosh. People here nice and early. Drewski, what up? Finally able to catch one of these. I'm so glad for you guys who haven't been able to catch me. Make sure, man, live notifications. It matters so you don't miss out. You can be here with us from moment one. Degenerate, what up? Spencer, as always. I think we just email exchange, Spencer. I think we just email exchanged. Let me mute myself on this one here. All right. It's always technology gets me down. Anyway, if you guys are your first time joining us, I'm Dr. Pinesett. I'm the study doc, and we do pre-med and we do student coaching every Wednesday. And if you want to be the student I coach, every week I will announce something you must do. We'll have a contest, and this is totally free coaching. All you have to do is enter the contest, do what you will, and you can be a student who's on here getting expert advice, getting coaching to help you be better as a student, be more productive, be more efficient, or work as a pre-med to get to the medical school of your dreams. And tonight we're gonna do a little combo package because John messaged me and he wants to talk about himself as a student, some things he's gone through, and then also how that affects his future doctor aspirations. So we're gonna bring John on here. Before we get that going, first thing I wanna say is, guys, like this video, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications so you guys can be with us. We'll be live every Monday, every Wednesday. Every Wednesday we'll be coaching. I have some really great interviews lined up coming up the next couple weeks. We're also doing our med school interview series on Mondays, so check that out. What else should I say? The website is thestudydoc.com. Everything's on sale right now for COVID, including my application course, which you guys can get right now, $100 off my application course in the box below. If you guys want to do that, let's get to it. Let's bring John on, right? Let's get to the intro and we'll bring John on. But stop making excuses, stop whining, stop, right? Get at it. No excuses, just dominate. All right, let's see. Let's bring John on. Oh, can we see John? Can everybody see John? John lives in the shadows, if you can't tell. He's in the shadow figure. Let me know you guys can see John right now. We can all see? Perfect. All right. Everybody says they can see. All right, 2020. All right, so John is here. We were doing coaching. I know kind of a little bit about what John wants to talk about, but John, introduce yourself, tell the people about yourself, and then we can get into it.
Hi, I'm John Abifuna. I'm a second semester student at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. I am a pre-med student, and I going through my first year of college was terrible, quite terrible. I didn't do as well. I had a pretty good GPA, like the first semester. The second semester, but I've just kind of like lost a lot of confidence for my abilities as a student because in high school I was a pretty good student in high school. I didn't really have to do much to be successful. I was very school was very easy for me, I would say. But when I got to college, UNC is one of the best universities in the country. So it's like, you come in and I got wrecked with work. I didn't really know what I was doing. I changed my major like 5 times. First it was biology.
Wow, that's a lot of changes in 1 year. Okay.
Yeah. Well, not necessarily 5 times, but first it was biology, then it was exercise and sports science, then it was philosophy, and then it was medical anthropology. Yeah, it was 5 times. Yeah, 5 times. And then now since over quarantine, I've really first quarantine, get kind of depressed and down because I didn't like all the plans that I had for the year kind of crashed in my face. So I lost a lot of friends. A lot of things just kind of went down during that year. So it's like during this year. So I was wrecked. I got depressed for a while until then recently. While I was kind of like moving in depression and kind of just like going through the motions, I kind of developed a strong passion for sports. So I was like, okay, cool, sports. Sports is cool. I've always loved sports since I was a little kid. So then, I talked to a friend and he kind of just told me, bro, like you would be great if you got into sports journalism as a major. And I was like, wow, that actually sounds pretty cool. So we talked about it, and now I've applied to the media and journalism school at my university, and now I have a passion to become an orthopedic surgeon and a sports medicine physician for a professional sports team in the future, eventually. And that's a burning passion of mine that I want to keep. I wanted to keep going. I don't want to just stop being motivated. Like I want to keep being motivated. And right now I have a 3.1 GPA as we speak. Um, hopefully I can learn tips of how to bring that up so I can go to medical school. And the medical schools that I want to go to, that like my dream medical school is NYU Medical School, because it's like, I mean, that like it's in the middle of New York City and it's free tuition. Like who can beat that, So
The win-win.
um yeah, exactly. So,
Okay.
but like I definitely want to just want to go to medical school in New York City because I love New York City, and I would do anything again. I would do anything to go to medical school there. But it's just right now, just kind of asking, like what I need to do to, just improve and not be a student ever again.
Yeah. All right, cool. So everyone give it up for John. John is on here live with us, rocking the afro, as somebody said, sounding super tall. I thought I had at one point in my life. You know what's interesting is I've gotten old. I think my voice is weak now. I used to have a very powerful, deep voice like John here, Joan Coffee, and now my voice is kind of lightened up. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's kids. I mean, getting on the kids so much. But John, thank you so much for joining us. So let's go through a couple things. So to recap, John is a sophomore at UNC, home of the Tar Heels. I think Duke does it better, but it's okay.
Oh, really?
He struggled his first year, changing majors 5 times, 3.1 GPA, has struggled academically, um, and has kind of struggled during COVID, as many of you guys have, right, with this depression and these emotions he's coming on, breaking from our support circles, our friends, and has now been reinvigorated, sort of, with his passion for sports and figuring out how he can work towards that goal. And so I guess the place will start, and you sent me a message, and I think what you kind of mentioned it here. And this is the trap, right? This is the trap. You got into UNC. It's a phenomenal school. It's super hard to get into UNC, right? It's not easy.
Yeah, sure.
But you recognize that what it took to get into that school was nothing for you. You were a lazy student in high school, doing the bare minimum, right? But high school, as we soon find out, we get all pumped up about how great we did in high school. And then we learn quickly, once you get to college, that high school really was nothing. It was preschool, it was training wheels. And so what you did in high school will not be effective in college, and we have to level up. And it starts with our habits, our behaviors, our patterns. I myself, right now, Stanford Medical School graduate, now person who teaches people how to study. In high school, I was a bad student, not because I was dumb. And this is where I think a lot of people, when we start to talk about being a great student and what you're capable of, and success in college, the very first thing we have to understand is that how you perform in your classes, the grades you get in high school, doesn't tell you if you're smart or if you're dumb. In medicine, in school, in life, there is no such thing as smart or dumb. It's what you have earned, what have you worked to become, and how far you are along the growth of your potential. Because all of us have tremendous potential. And the way I'll put it out there is that most students never fulfill the potential they have. Most students never realize even the actual student they could be in that moment because they underperform. And it comes down to, I was talking earlier today with a director of a post-bac program. And we were talking, and I'm excited because the director of this post-bac program is going to come for my Dominate Premed Mastermind. My Premed coaching group is going to come and actually answer everybody's questions about post-bacs, one of our upcoming coaching sessions. But one of the things he was talking about when he talks to students, because people who go to post-bac programs, right, are students who performed poorly in undergrad, GPAs aren't there, and now are coming to this post-bac program because something is missing, right, in their pre-med profile, right? Their GPA is not where it needs to be. And so one of the things he said he does a lot of, that he has to help students with, one of the major obstacles, and that's what I'm always telling you guys, to helping students succeed, is helping students overcome their mental deficits that they've created by their past failures, right? By their past failures. And when we talk about, one of the things he brought up, and the reason I'm bringing this up is because he talked about, we were talking, as a fellow educator, he's been in education. He's a doctorate in education, and I love education. You guys know I could have 5 doctorates in education. And so we were talking about different studies in education. One of the studies he brought up, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's a great study. And I had actually never even heard of this study, but it was a great study nonetheless, was done in fleas. Fleas, right? Fleas. the thing that we think, right, that, bites animals, fleas. And what he was saying is that fleas are the highest jumping creature on the planet, apparently. So if a human could jump like a flea could jump, then a human could jump like over a building. Like, it's like crazy. Fleas have this huge jumping ability. And what he was saying is that they did a study where they took fleas and they put them in glass jars. And one group of fleas went into a small glass jar. The other group of fleas went into a tall glass jar. And these fleas would jump in the jars. And then when they put the fleas in there for like 2 weeks. Then they took the fleas out of the jars. And what they noticed was the fleas that were in the small jar only ever jumped to that height. And the fleas who were in the bigger jar could jump to that height. And these fleas, right, are genetically identical. There's nothing different about them, right? They all have the ability to jump as high as the fleas in the big jar were jumping. But the fleas in the small jar had never, ever, ever, ever realized, and because of their environment, that they could jump higher than that. So that's what they set their limits at. And so what's interesting, and this is the reason I think this study plays out in a lot of different ways in education, but one of the ways that this happens is that students get a big head about their accomplishments, right? And they feel like, oh, I'm a big dog. I did great in high school. I got into UNC. I got into wherever, right? And so we think that we're awesome. We're amazing. We done made it. We done made it to the promised land. I'm in college. My family's proud of me. Maybe I'm first generation. We think we've peaked. And so what we do is we get this big head, we get into college, and we think this is all I can do. This is the best I can do. This is going to be enough. And then when it's not enough, instead of jumping higher, instead of, right, stepping up to the level, what do? What did you do, John? You changed your major. You laid on the bed and you cried, right? And we quit because we think, oh, I can't compete. I can't jump that high. These cats is real jumpers. Not recognizing that we are simply, right, we are a product of what we were doing. John, you've been lazy because you were able to get away with being lazy. You could procrastinate left and right, and it still got you the grades to get into UNC. And you stumbled. Oh. And when you stumbled, you're like, well, it's the only gear I got. Right? To use a sports analogy, shoot, I'm running as fast as I can. I don't have a second gear. You didn't recognize you had a larger gear. Right? And so what I want everybody to understand is, as we start this, much of your struggles, whether you're a pre-med or you're a student, comes from the fact that you don't understand your potential. You can't even fathom how awesome you can be. And I relate to what you're saying, John. John is a big black guy with deep voice and an afro. For you guys who have seen my freshman year pictures, you know I rocked the afro. It was sweet, luxurious, silky smooth, y'all. Hair would floweth when I ran. It was beautiful. And I entered college as a first generation college student, as a black male, and I looked around and I was intimidated, guys. I was intimidated. At the same time, I said, listen, this is the student I've always been. I've always been like an average-ish student, right? In high school, I was average-ish. My high school GPA, John, what was your high school GPA? Lazy John, high school lazy John GPA.
Unweighted, it was a 3.7. Weighted, it was like a 4.0.
Okay. So John's, what is it, 4.075?
Like 4.05.
Okay.
Was it?
So John's weighted GPA was above 4.0. Everyone, thumbs up for John right now for working for that 4.0 in high school, right? His weighted GPA was 4.0. John, you want to know my weighted high school GPA was? The weighted one.
What was it?
3.3. So what does that tell you about me as a high school student?
Um,
I was well below average, y'all. If John got a 4.075, some of y'all got 4.5, right? My weighted GPA was 3.3, John.
mm,
And so then when I got to college, I was fortunate enough. I was like, oh man, they made an error. They didn't let me up in here in UC Irvine. I don't know how, but I'm in here, right? When I got to UC Irvine, I looked at myself as that 3.3. I saw myself as the average student. And so what I put upon myself, what I put in my mind, I put myself in a gosh darn small jar. And I said to myself, just get the B. Just pass. If the class is hard, just get the C and pass that class. If the class is easy, get the B. And that's what I told myself. That's the mindset, the mentality I went into. John, do you feel like you came into college with that mindset of I just want to survive? I'm glad to be here. I'm happy to participate, right? This is what I can do. Is that your mentality you entered college with?
um, uh, yeah, and then I'd say like that I wanted to just be like, okay, I I graduated college. That's it.
Yeah.
Like I'm at UNC, so it's like, wow, like, this is a great school. I just want to survive. At least for the first semester, I want to get by. You
Yeah.
know, and I did for the first semester, but barely, but I got by. So yeah,
So
that was
how
my
many of you
mentality.
guys, right? John is here with us live action, guys. We are live action. How many of you guys were like John or are like John? You're early in your career and you start college and you're just trying to survive. And what's interesting and what's crazy about this survival mechanism is it's like life in general. Okay. You guys know I'm a big proponent of creating the life you want. Why are so many people in America miserable? We were talking about this in our Premed mastermind the other week. I said, why are so many doctors miserable? And it's because we get into this whole mindset, this whole perspective of survival. We're in survival mode. And the problem with survival mode, and this is why, right, our primitive system, our brain system that we come with as humans, right? We're primitive monkeys in the tree, right? That brain can't equate with our modern day, and there's a disconnect because that brain was designed to be in survival mode. And
Mm,
today in America, we talked about this in the diversity video. If you guys haven't seen, did a video about increasing medical diversity last week. And one of the things I talked about was how we now have the ability to accumulate and to hoard knowledge, wealth, accomplishments, and so forth, right? But to do that, what that requires, and it's a mindset of the wealthy. And when we talk about wealth, it's not just money; it's a wealth of everything. I'm wealthy in knowledge, y'all. My brain is thick, right? Talk about fat wallets. I got a fat. I put a hat on. I'm like a size 8, like a size 8 hat. My head is fat with knowledge, and I say that because it's important to understand. If you're in survival mode, what are you not in? Thriving mode. You can
mm,
never get to thriving. You can never get to excellence. You can never get to that greatness if you're in survival mode because you're always playing catch up. And for a lot of you guys, you go through your term, right? It's finals week right now. How many of you guys are having a miserable finals week because you've been in survival mode all semester? Oh, I should get this assignment in. I should be ready for this quiz. I should be ready. You're in survival mode, survival mode, survival mode, and you never, ever, 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 ever got to that promised land you thought you were gonna get to of thriving, of being ahead, of being on top of things. And what happens is we talk about it in a microcosm of a semester. But John now is entering his 4th semester of college. And John, my question to you is after every semester so far, you've had 3 of them. Have you said to yourself, "Oh, this semester is going to be different. I'm not going to be in
oh yeah.
survival mode. This semester I'm going to be on top of it. Not even going to be on top of it. I'm going to be ahead. I'm going to have all the books ahead of time. You know, went to Amazon, 1-day delivery." How many times have you said it to yourself?
Every single time, yeah.
But was it any different the next term?
Nope, not at all.
And what happens is, and we don't recognize this, is, and I tell you guys this all the time, we are our habits. Your habits, your decisions, all that stuff, it makes your life. And we think of habits, people talk about, oh, I'm a habit, I'm going to the gym. There are so many things that we do, and the bulk, I think something like 90% of the decisions we make in a day are actually like the things we do are habits, are things we don't even think about. We just do. We go to work, we do all these things. Are. And what we don't recognize is that you guys, a lot of students, and this is like people, my 5 pillars course. So John is new in my 5 pillars course. He's brand new. And one of the things that my 5 pillars course, the intro is like, I think my intro might be like 3 hours. It's something ridiculous. Like you can't even get to the learning. You got to go through 3 hours of me literally grabbing you by the shirt and shaking you loose of all the bad mentalities, all the bad habits, all the bad routines, all the badness that you bring in that's weighing you down. I have to take 3 hours before I can teach you. I have to take 3 hours and shake you loose of all that nonsense. Because you can't be that better you. You can't fulfill your potential. You can't be the successful student, the efficient student, if you're stuck in the mold of a lazy, procrastinating, limited in thought having, right, student. They can't exist in the same body. It's almost like a scary movie. I like scary movies. I was watching The Strain. I don't know if you guys were watching it. Anyway, but I like scary movies. And so it's like Possession. Like I was watching a scary movie, and the two spirits can't occupy at the same time. Somebody's got to be in charge. And for you guys, some of y'all are possessed, right, by a terrible student. They haunt your dreams. They haunt your life. You got to shake them loose, but you can't get to be the good guy until you get rid of this bad guy. And so the first thing I want to say to you, John, is that as you're probably already learning in 5 pillars, is that we have to change. And one of the things that you sent me a message. So John sent me a message. It's a little cheating this week. Normally we do cold coaching, but John sent me an email kind of breaking down a little bit of a situation earlier today, right before this. And so one of the things he mentioned, and he said it in the paragraph, and it's so common of students who are in the small jar, in this limiting capacity, is they say, well, flat out, I hate studying. Right? How many of you guys hate studying? Guys, don't make John feel like he's alone. We're here so we can all learn. John is kind enough, he's courteous enough to get on here to expose his soft underbelly and let you guys know he's struggling. So who out here is struggling with him? Who out here can be honest and say, even at one point, you don't say it was now. Be honest. You can say it was years ago and I was right? You hated studying. And we have to recognize hating studying, struggling in school, being stressed out and frazzled all the time, it's the norm, but it's not necessary. We've been talking a lot about destigmatizing versus normalizing. Yes, being stressed out, being frazzled, hating to sit down and studying, oh my gosh, being a procrastination monster, being super lazy, that's the norm. That's the average. That's what most students are. Most students hate to study. Most students hate to read. It doesn't mean, because it's the norm, that we should tolerate it and that we should call it necessary. And so when we talk about this, right, the first thing we have to understand, so one, John, is that what you did in high school doesn't carry to college. And for some of you guys who are balling out in college right now, think you're something, medical school will dust you in a heartbeat. And I know this because I go out and I do studying workshops, 4 hours, 8 hours with medical students at medical schools. They bring me in because they know their medical students don't know how to study. And they get there and they flounder and they get stressed. And we're going to talk about anxiety and depression because you're talking about you experienced some of that in COVID. So we're going to get in that in a second, John. But everybody thinks they're a baller until they meet a bigger baller. How many of y'all gone to the park, right? You're like, man, I'm balling in my neighborhood. And everybody's like, oh, come over to this park. You go over to that park and people are dunking. You're like, well, I thought I was cool because I could touch the backboard and everything, but he's dunking. He like 6'8", and I'm like 5'8", so I'm out my league. That's what happens in academics, is that at some point, you're going to reach a point where your skill set doesn't allow you to hang. And so it's incumbent upon you guys to recognize you can be more, go to fulfill that potential. But the second thing is that we have to do is that we have to start developing skills for that next level before we get to that next level. I was listening to, what was I listening to? There was a speech given by, and this is like a couple months ago, so I apologize. It was a woman, and she runs a center for student performance or something like that. And one of the things she said that was really, really interesting to me was she was talking about Oh my gosh, and I'm gonna blank on what. Oh, I'm gonna blank on exactly what she said. It was so good. There we go. I got it. She was
Okay.
talking about why tutors, tutors are the lowest form of education, and how tutors and having tutoring actually sabotage students on more levels than we can even comprehend. And I was like, ooh, I've been saying this for forever, right? And she went into it, and I was like, man, we are simpatico, but she broke it down so nicely. And she talked about what people don't recognize about tutoring is that people confuse their ability to learn, people confuse their learning, their understanding with the tutors. Because a tutor
Hmm.
knows something doesn't mean you know something. Because a
Oh yeah.
tutor could learn something and figure it out and explain it to you doesn't mean you can do it. And so it handicaps you. Additionally, when do we go to tutoring? And this is the point I want to make here. When do we go to tutoring? John, when do we access the tutor? When do we like, oh, I need a tutor? When do we say I need a tutor?
Probably when you fail that first test, or
When you're struggling.
yeah. Mm.
So we talked about being in survival mode. We talked about working from behind. When it comes to tutoring, from an early age to need tutoring, and this is crazy to me, students feel shame for needing tutoring. How many of you guys in high school had a tutor for something and you was like, oh, you sneaky peeks, you got to hide that thing, right? You got to hide the fact that you have a tutor. How many of you guys in college can't tell your friends about your tutor, about the fact you need tutoring or extra tutoring, right? That you go to the learning center because you have a learning disability. How many of you guys feel shame for that? And what we don't recognize is that because we're playing catch up with the tutor, and because of that shame associated with it, it becomes a stigma, not of public stigma, but of our own stigma, where we
Hmm.
look at ourselves as someone who's a struggler, as someone who's right, who's a flounderer. And where it plays in is that we're always now in an academic survival mode. And I thought it was so profound that she was talking about this because this is what happens to you guys. Is that in every facet, in every way, you're always playing catch up. And so you assume the other side of that coin, being on time, being ahead, is not you, is not possible. And so you just live in it and you exist in it. And then you feel miserable and terrible and awful. And you can't ever get there. Don't wait until you struggle to seek help. Don't wait until you struggle to level up. Because if you're waiting till then, it's too late. You've lost the battle.
Hmm. Yeah. Hmm.
Does everybody understand what I'm saying right there? If you wait, if you're like, no, I don't need any help, and this happens all the time. I swear to goodness, I'll go out and give a talk, and some, smart aleck will be like, oh yeah, like one of the most famous times this happened. John, can I tell a story? Do you mind if I tell a story?
Oh, go
Okay.
ahead, please.
I gave a talk at St. Mary's Hospital in Long Beach, and it was like maybe 250 students. It's a big hospital in Long Beach, and I go out to do this talk, and these students are all pre-meds, and at every talk there's always the same. So Shannon loves coming because Shannon's kind of a jerk, like I'm a jerk, and she loves seeing me break people down. And so we're at this talk, and I'm asking, I'm like, who knows how to study in here? And I always ask that question. So if you guys ever come to a live event, be prepared not to answer this question the wrong way. I ask, say, hey, do you know how to study? You know how to study? I ask everybody in the room, and then hands go up. And then I ask a second time, do you really know how to study? And then all the hands go down. There's always like one or two that stay up. And so I said, okay, you come here. And so I'm at St. Mary's in Long Beach. I'm giving this talk, and I tell this guy, okay, you know how to study? Tell me about it. He's like, well, I am a neuro. He goes to UCLA, and in UCLA you got these super long majors. He's like, I'm a neuro linguistical mechanical bio whatever, like some super long major. He's like, I'm gonna be a neurosurgeon. Blah, blah, blah. He's like going on this whole spiel, and he's like, I know that I've studied the da, 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 and he starts listing off studies, and he thinks he's gonna talk over my head about studies, not recognizing, guy, I've been studying neuroscience since before you were born, character. You were born in the 2000s. I've been before that, right? And so I was like, oh, you know how to study. So then I started asking about his studying. And I started penetrating his veil of knowing how to study. And what I explained is I said, listen, I'm not doing this to be mean to you, but I'm doing this to show you that your arrogance, your thinking that you are at it and you're crushing it as a freshman, you're crushing it. Oh, You haven't seen what's in front of you.
Mm.
We've got to prepare for it now and not wait for it to happen. It's like people with COVID. Once you got to COVID, it's too late. It's too late. I see people, I swear to goodness. So I work at offices, right? And one of the surgical offices I was at, the young woman is a dental assistant. She got COVID. She infected her parents. And then at that point, she decided to put a mask on.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, it's too late. Everybody's infected. It's already spread. And it's ludicrous. Does that sound ludicrous to you guys? But think about what you guys do in your academic careers.
Mm.
Your house is on fire. You're failing every class. You're a month behind. And then you seek help? Why? Because you think everything's going to go good. So for studying, you guys have to recognize you've got to become a professional student. It's not okay to get by. It's not okay to be average. It's not okay to got to be excellent. Got to be supremely great. And so I'm glad that John is in our 5 pillars now with our TST, because we're going to get you to greatness, but you got to recognize that. When we talk about this hating studying, when we talk about, right, that the problem with hating studying is that anything we hate, anything we envy, we ain't going to get into.
Mm.
Right? Like, I don't like, me personally, hanging out with men. It's not my thing. I don't have any conversation for a man. I don't really know what we talk about. So as a result, I don't like that, right? I hate having male friends. So what do I not have? John, tell me. Male friends. I don't have a use for them, right? And so the same thing with studying. If you hate studying, what are you going to do? You're going to be a master procrastinator, because you will do anything but sit down and study.
Yep.
Why do you hate studying? Because in the past, you've studied and not gotten the results you want.
Yes.
Right? You are scarred. You have a trauma from, I put work in, didn't get a result, so why should I study now? And you hate it. I love studying. Love it. Love it. Can't wait to study. Love tests. When I was in school, oh man, I couldn't wait for a test day. Because every time I study, I have success. Why would you not want to do something you have success at? That's the reality. If we know we can be successful, shoot, right? It's like who here has a strong friend? Does anybody, like, you know what I'm talking about? Like a friend who's real strong, like they got the muscles. Mike is my strong friend. Mike S. and my coaching group is my strong friend. Where anytime there's an opportunity to show how strong they are, they jump at the chance.
Oh yeah.
You need me to lift that? I can lift it. I can lift it right now, one hand, right? They always want to show their strength. Why? Because they know they're strong, so they love it. But then if you ask them, okay, run 10 steps, they're like, oh, wait a minute, run? These legs don't do that, right? So the whole point is, if you hate studying, you're not going to want to do it, you're going to procrastinate. So how do we change that narrative in our head? How do we go from hating studying to loving studying? The first thing, right, it goes back to what we were talking about. You got to recognize you can be more, you can do better. Your past is not you. And while we'll talk about this and the hating of studying, let's talk about depression, right? Because you've been depressed during COVID. Yeah. Student depression. Students are sad. I'm so sad with school. Oh, gosh. How many of y'all here are sad right now during COVID? How many of y'all sad about school? Is everybody still with me? My feed is slowing down. Can everybody still see me? Everybody still hear me? Are we still learning? YouTube must be like, nah, we on here too thick. We gotta get up out of here. We gotta cut this down. Y'all using up all my bandwidth. Are we learning? Yeah, Armand, I meant that kind of strong, not academically. Okay, so we deal with this sadness, right, and this despair. And there's you know what I'm good at? I teach my students to conceptualize instead of memorize facts. And so I'm great at remembering the point of a book, but never great at remembering what the book was. Regardless, there's a book by a woman, credit to her. It's not my original work, but she framed, it was a book on beating depression and beating, right? Becoming, it was like something, become happy and avoid depression, something like that. And one of the lines that she said I thought was very good. It was a whole section where she talked about depression, and she talked about depression being despair about our past. And I was like, that's very profound. As simple as it sounds, But depression is despair about our past. It's regret,
Oh
right?
yeah.
It's letdown. It's oh, it's that. That's what depression is. And so what's interesting is the students who are depressed during COVID, okay? The students who have had their sadness flare up is because during this COVID, a lot of opportunities have dried up. And so what people are sad about, right? It's what's happening in application cycle right now. People are sad about the fact that, dang, I should have taken the time to get clinical experience before. I should have taken the time to do this before. I should have taken the time to do this, to do this, to do this, because now we live in despair and it's regret about the past. Why are people, other side of money, right? People are really upset during COVID because it's that FOMO. They missed out. Oh, I should have been partying last year. This year I can't party. It's that depression. So for you guys as students, when you guys have sadness, we've got to learn. The reason you feel sad as a student is regret about the past. You guys got to let that stuff go. Because how many times have you guys been sad and depressed about something that already happened, and you were so sad and depressed and upset about it that you let the next thing turn into a failure? So John, how many times have you been mad at yourself for not studying, and you were so mad and so sad about it that you skipped the next study session? I'm just too distraught to study right now. I gotta step away. And you turn one bad hour or one bad day into 2 bad days, into 3 bad days. Next thing you know, you got a whole semester then blown up on you. Right? How many of you guys during finals week right now started the week with a tough one? It was hard. And you let yourself down. You recognize, man, I procrastinated too much. I was too sad. I was paying too much attention to TikTok, and I wasn't in my business in my books. And you let that one final turn into 2 bad finals. Right?
Mm.
So what we have to do, and as students, you guys do this on tests. How many of you guys struggle with test anxiety? It's the same premise. It all comes from the same place. The anxiety builds in a test. Every time you are unsure about a question, every time you struggle with a question, the anxiety builds. It builds. It builds. The sadness builds. The negative feelings builds. And it's just a cloud of negativity around you.
Yeah.
What you have to get very good at as a student is recognizing the past can't be changed, but that past failure, that past upset, that past letdown can be used to prevent future failures. And so one of the things, when people ask me, hey, what's your biggest failure? I really in my life have no major failures. The one failure I have was, again, it was always back to dating, was a woman I dated. Is a big failure on my part, John. That was a big waste of my gosh darn time. That was a fail, complete fail, right? That was a complete fail. But outside of that, I don't have failures. And even that was not a failure. Why? Because it got me to my wife, Shannon.
Mm-hmm.
When we look at life as failing, if we're so afraid of failure, if we see all these paths, I don't have no failures. I have lessons. I have things I've learned. I have teachable moments where, dang, I should not have done that, right? Even when I messed up freshman year. For all of you guys who struggle with low GPAs, I say this all the time as premeds. You're like, oh my gosh, I had a bad year, a bad semester, I had a bad 2 years. And you think, oh, I can never come back from this. John's got a 3.1 GPA. Oh my gosh, I can never come back. What keeps you from coming back is you being so defeated about the past that you fail to change anything going forward. Yeah. So how many of you guys have low GPAs as premeds? And instead of fixing that GPA, instead of being a better student, you're so scarred by that past, you avoid taking new classes. Right?
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to slow play it. I'm going to move this around. I'm going to change majors because that'll fix it.
Yeah, that's exactly what I do. Like even some classes that I'm taking, I'll drop it or I'll withdraw from it because I'm so afraid of failing because of what happened the previous time, and it's just then a kind of anxiety just comes over my head. Like that always happens for some reason.
Yeah, I just, that's what happens to us. So I want you guys to recognize nothing in this world, from someone who had the terrible freshman GPA, nothing in this world is insurmountable. Nothing in this world is so disastrous, even though we try to build up in our mind. Nothing is so catastrophic that you can't come back from it. including your bad GPA, including the fact that you don't have clinical experience yet, including the fact that you don't have any volunteering experience yet. I got an email from a kid this week. I don't want to say a kid; he's a grown man, but everybody's a kid to me. I'm old as dirt, right? But he's a college student. He just graduated college, and he's got a 4.0 GPA, amazing GPA. But he's like, I'm recognizing, I'm realizing, Dr. P, that I don't have any extracurriculars. I was so busy getting the grades, I don't have any extracurriculars, and now I feel like I can't get into medical school. And I was like, psh, 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 what are you talking about? Just go get some extracurriculars. I know, but now I've graduated. It's so hard. Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, the reality is he's not going to let himself. He's so upset about the past and where he's at right now and not taking advantage of the opportunities he had at his university that he's not going to do the work. And that's the trap that we fall into, guys. And we've got to be better than that. We've got to pay more mind to our future and less mind to our past. So, John, when we talk about why you've struggled your first 3 semesters, right, as a struggling student getting a 3.1 GPA, we've talked about the fact that you're lazy and you procrastinate and you hate studying. But if we're being honest and we're digging deeper and we're really thinking about it, what are some specific things that you have done or not done that have resulted in you getting lower grades than you should have?
Okay, this is where I get like.
So let's think about a specific class that you did poorly in. Name the class that you withdrew from.
Yeah. I had a physics class and a math class. These are 2 classes.
Okay.
These are 2 classes that I did very, very poorly in. And I believe that I did terrible in them because, one, I didn't study. Like, when there was a study session, I would have rather hung out with my friends. So, for some reason, I took hanging out with friends over actually studying. Also, while I was in class, I was very distracted. Like, I was zoned out. I was on my phone sometimes, and it's like, okay, this is the class that my mom is literally paying for. Like, how come I'm not engaged? Like, I would always wonder why I wasn't really engaged. I wasn't really engaged with the professor. You know, and also like when there was a test, like there was like literally like 2 weeks in advance. Hey, there's a test, or even on syllabus. Hey, there's a test. I would wait until like I would literally wait until the last minute to study for the test, and of course I would always do poorly on the test.
Yeah.
And again, being lazy, like, I wouldn't go to any study sessions, even if there was a study session, I wouldn't go. I would just be like, okay, yeah, I'll figure it out later, that kind of thing. Yeah, and whenever I would have failures, like I would always be sad and depressed about it. You felt this, I would be sad and depressed about it, and I would just be in bed all day and miss all the classes that day. Until like my mom is like, yo, get over it, like, like get over it and go study for the next one, like, that kind of thing. And just like the disappointment that my mom had in me really, really just like it drowned me. It destroyed my confidence. Like, like, because like coming off a senior year, I was very, very confident, coming off the senior year of high school, like, yo, like I got this in the bag, like, one of the top, one of my top students in the class. Like, I'm good. Like, I got it straight up. I'm in the bag. But then, coming into college my first semester, I mean, I sucked, and that's just the reality. I sucked.
Yeah. So let's break this down. So first thing, before I address this, there's I guess a thread going on right in the comments, and I'll say 2 things. One, nobody needs to be here. If you don't like what I'm saying or what any of my students are saying, then leave. I hope you do leave. Let's first say that. The second thing I'll say is, don't come on here, or better yet, I'll talk to the people who are actually listening. Do not listen to people who say you have to have a 3.8 GPA to get to medical school or a master's program or any of that stuff. They're lying. So if anyone tells you, oh, 3.8 is required, everyone has 4.0s. And I saw Samaya, and I'm going to thump Samaya on the back of the wrist because she said 3.8 is only average for med school. You have to remember most people have 4.0s. That's not accurate. And we've talked about this. I have multiple videos that talk about the GPAs and the requirements for medical school and why that data is skewed. So everyone, listen to me right now, because we're here and we're trying to learn and we're trying to get better. And we're trying to be positive. If you're here to troll and act silly in the comments, just leave. That's all I'm trying to say. And I don't know if anybody's trolling. I don't know what's what, but I know Meryl, and I know Meryl's top of her med school class right now. So if she's telling you you're trolling or you're messing up, then she might be right. I don't know what's happening in the box, but I'm just saying, pay attention, guys. Okay. Now, to address what we were talking about here, sorry, John, I had to break from that. We gotta break from that for a second and shout out some people real quick. Is that when we talk about, right, what John's talking about is that where you have multiple classes, you find yourself putting things off. Oftentimes, it's because there's too much on your plate. We talked about, John said, distractions. Oh, I'm just going to go do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do these other things. You guys have to be clear on your priorities. And I always say this to people, and I'll say it to you guys now. You could only have one top priority. And if you guys want a very simple way to recognize and realize if you're on task, to recognize and realize what you should be doing with your time, and to strategize and figure out, okay, what needs to get done on my to-do list, how should I make my schedule, what should I focus on, is ask yourself a simple question. If you're a pre-med, ask yourself, does what I have planned, does what I'm about to do move me closer or further away from medical school? Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Does that make sense? Sorry, I'm trying to read comments at the same time. It's getting crazy over here.
Yeah.
But does that make sense? So you got to ask yourself, you got to be clear on what your goals are, because there's a lot of wasted, futile activity. And people make it very complicated. Oh, I got to make the schedule. I gotta just ask yourself, I got two options. Which of these is going to move me closer to medical school? If you did that, would you make better decisions, John?
Yes.
You remember how those little bracelets, the WWJD, what would Jesus do? They sound silly, but it's just a cue. It's simple. Ethics is not complicated, right? Whatever your religion is, ask yourself, would Jesus do this? Would Jesus spit on this person? Probably not. I probably shouldn't spit on them. It's simple. So ask yourselves, hey, is this something that's going to get me to medical? Is this something a successful pre-med does? If the answer is no, stop doing it. Like it's hard to say this, right? And this is what we're going to talk about motivation, because that was something that you all said you were lacking, right? Is that we have to be clear on what our goal means to us. And I got a wonderful, wonderful phone call earlier today. I normally don't answer numbers I don't know, but I updated my iPhone recently, and now all my contacts have been unassigned. So now I never know. I should know people, and I don't know people. Okay. And so the number rang, and I thought, oh, maybe it's my resident who's in the room. And so I answered the phone, and the number came out and said, hey, Dr. P. And I was like, oh, okay, this must be a student. I'm like, hello, who is this? And the student's like, oh, this is so-and-so. You don't know me. You may not remember me. I met you 2 years back at a conference, and we talked a little bit after the conference, and you gave me your phone number, and I never called you, but I enrolled in your courses, and I just wanted to call you today and thank you. I'm like, thank me for what? What's going on? And he goes, well, I just got into medical school today. And one of the things we talked about, right? And this is like in this year of excuses, right? And people wanting to blame other people for their failures. This student said, I'm thanking you because you gave me a mentality of resilience, and you gave me the skills to carry through with that resilience. He goes, this year, I almost didn't apply. He goes, I was signed up to take the MCAT on one date. It got canceled because of COVID. I then had a second date, got canceled because of COVID. I finally was able to take my third date, but by that time I had friends who were studying with me, who were also studying, who said, oh, it's just too hard, and stopped studying, gave up on the cycle. Okay? He's like, I powered through, did it on the third attempt, got the score, applied to medical school, And now I have my first medical school acceptance. He goes, I'm a first generation college student, low income, Hispanic student. And so, as the conversation we had last week, we were just talking about this, about everybody wanting to complain about application stuff instead of doing something about it and making change, is that for you guys, we have to be clear. What matters to me? Why does it matter to me? And when I was having a conversation with a student, I was like, well, what made you push through? What made you stay resilient? And he was like, I was thinking about my family and what my family has to do. And he was talking about the different jobs his dad does, plural jobs his dad does to support the family. He's thinking about how his family is depending on them to uplift them. And maybe to some of you guys, right, that seems crazy, right? That seems ridiculous for a family to be depending on one person. But for disadvantaged students, that's the reality. Is that if we're being honest, right? You talk about how your mom is paying for your school, she's working hard for you. You becoming a doctor, it means something to your mom. It means something to your community. It means something to these people. I know what it means to my family that I became, what it means to my kids. My kids' lives are amazing. I've upgraded their lives so much because I created this career. That's what made me work. When we talk about having priorities, well, okay, does it move closer to be a doctor? Da, da, da. Well, even if I do that discussion, I might not do it because it might not be rewarding to me. What makes it rewarding is to be very clear about what it means for you to become a doctor. And for me, it was about my family. It was about the work my parents had put in, the sacrifice they had to get things done. And for this student, that's what he was saying. He's like, I thought about my parents, and that made me keep studying. And I'm not saying during this cycle, we just had this conversation last week, is that it's okay to say, listen, this cycle's a mess. COVID's a mess. My family's in trouble, right? I've had multiple students whose family members have passed away. It's okay to take a step back. But some of you guys are taking steps back all the time. Some of you guys are taking no steps forward, not never. You're always running from progress. Who here understands what I'm talking about right now? Who here always comes with a reason to take their foot off the gas? Because you aren't clear on your reason of why you should have that pedal to the gosh darn metal and be pushing down. Right? I'm confident. I'm proud of myself always. Why? Because I resigned. I told myself I will never be outworked. And even if I fall short, it's not going to be because I didn't do the work. And for you guys who have lots of regret, who have lots of anger at yourself for the things you've fallen short on, the reason you're so angry is because you recognize you didn't do what you could have done. Right? If we're being honest, John, do you feel like you gave your best effort, that you did everything you could to be successful the last year and a half?
Not
Heck
at
no,
all.
that's why you're depressed, right? We know we messed this up. So you got to be clear on what's your future. You talking about how you want to be sports medicine. You talking about how you want to do this. What does that mean to you in a practical, feasible manner? For me, you know what being an anesthesiologist is to me? You know why I was so motivated to become it? Because I love going to work. I get to have so much fun. I get to do physiology all day, pharmacology all day. I get to talk to patients. It's bomb. It's way better than having a desk job. It's way better than being a janitor. That's the reality. I don't want those jobs. I like my job. And so I put in work for 4 years of undergrad, for 2 years of grad school, for 4 years of medical school, so that I could create 40 years of the exact life I want. For some of you guys who are struggling, it's because you aren't clear on what your future means to you. That's why you guys can't answer the question, why do you want to be a doctor? Concisely. You're not clear on what being a doctor means to you, what it's going to do. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir. A lot of sense.
Right? And Utha brings up a good point about comfort, in that 95% of the time, the right decision is going to be the uncomfortable, is going to be the hard path. right? That's the reality. And so the difference between those who succeed and those who don't is that we're willing to sacrifice immediate comfort for the comfort we can see down the road with our vision of our future. And if we aren't
Yeah.
clear
So,
on that, right? What'd you say?
mhm. So it's like instant gratification, right?
Right?
Yeah.
And do you acknowledge that you're an instant gratification person?
Yes, very much
Because we're
so.
all instant gratification people. But we have to turn that on its head. We got to flip that scale, right?
Mm.
We got to make that long term just as real, just as feel good as that short term.
Mm.
That's what it's about, guys. Yes, Logan, I agree with you. Discipline and consistency is the message you're getting out of this. I tell students all the time, it don't take no smarts to get A's. It don't take anything special. I'm dumber than most everybody on here probably. I don't care. My natural intellectual ability, maybe it's low. I don't know. But I was so consistent with my studying, I couldn't help but win. If I'm consistent, if I study a little bit every day, I tell my students, if you're consistent, right? If you're consistent, those hours add up. Those hours add up. If you're consistent, you're going to get the A's eventually. May not happen right away, but if you can just be consistent. The problem is again, most students, 99% of students are not consistent. If you are consistent, then you can be cumulative, meaning you can work an hour here, an hour there, a little hour here, and it all adds up to be enough to get you there. But if you're not consistent, then you got to throw everything on your plate, and that's where that overwhelm, all those things come in. So you got to get consistent. And to be consistent, because discipline is a myth, discipline, self-discipline comes from, right? It's just sacrificing short-term for long-term. And the easy way to do that is to make sure that long-term vision is super clear. If it's clear, shoot, it's easy. That's an easy decision. It's like relationships. I'll get back to relationships. Okay. One of my colleagues is in trouble because he met a young lady in the emergency department and went outside of his marriage for comfort, right? And
Man.
now he's set ablaze to his whole family. He got young kids and everything. It's terrible. It's sad. It's tragedy. And Shannon and I were talking about this, and I was like, it's another example. You failed to weigh out that immediate gratification versus the long-term gratification. So, woo-wee, that's tough. It's tough. It's tough. That's what it is. He didn't weigh that out. He was like, oh, she's young. We could be together, something special. I'm old. She's young. Oh my gosh. He didn't recognize, man, that wife at home, those kids, that long-term life is beautiful. He didn't have a clear vision on that. Right? Yeah. And that seems crazy. Some of y'all are like, what is he talking about right now? But think about some of y'all who are out here cheating on your doctor future. Some of y'all are serial, habitual, no apology having cheaters. You straight cheaters. Every day you got a choice. I can go home and I can study and I can be faithful to my future physician self, or I can go ahead and get this young thing, right? This party. I can procrastinate. Man, this Netflix episode is fire. Right? That's what we're doing. We're not weighing it out. And so to weigh it out, to flip the scale, we got to be clear on that long-term vision. Does that make sense to everybody right now? Everybody's on here. Let me know you understand what I'm saying right now. Iman says that's some analogy. I feel like that's a very good analogy. Am I wrong or am I right? We all understand all this, right? We understand this. It's human nature. It's like, oh, that looks good over there. You got to, oh, wait. You got to have a clear, mind on the future, right? And this week, right? It's finals week. How many of you guys have been lazy finals week right now? Too lazy to push through because that immediate, oh, that rest feels so good. Stop. Power through and think about the future and how you're going to feel in a week. Yeah, back-to-back weeks. Last week we did catfish. This week we're doing young things. Some young things out here. But it's the truth, guys. That's honestly the simplest way I can put it, but that's the truth. Is that We don't weigh it out, man. And I saw Eddie's on here, and Eddie's a former professional football player, and we were just talking last week in coaching, and we're saying the difference of people who make it and people who don't make it, professional athletes. It's just that discipline, that will to work. You guys see right now what's happening to James Harden. Are y'all watching this? People don't know who James Harden is. James Harden's a basketball player for the Houston Rockets, right? He went to Artesia for high school here in Southern California, right? He's tripping right now. Instead of reporting for training camp, he's throwing a hissy fit. He's bouncing to strip clubs in the middle of a COVID epidemic. He's not thinking long term, short term. He's not thinking this out, clearly. Going to alienate everybody. You can't be at the strip club, right? Lemon Pepper Lou. You can't be at the strip club right now. You can't do it. That's short term over long term. Yeah, and he's making $40 million a year guaranteed. So I guess he is thinking long term. He's like, they got to pay me anyway. But you guys know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
We got to understand this. Discipline is a myth. We've got to create that discipline. We've got to create that because consistency is the key. If you guys take nothing away from this whole session, if you guys can get consistent, you will be a better student, right? John is in my 5 pillars and in my TST, and the whole crux of my 5 pillars is to get you to be consistent. John mentioned distractions. My whole first pillar is all about what, John? Removing distractions. That's it. The second pillar is about scheduling, time management, prioritizing, because that's what matters. If you can just get consistent as a student, you will get A's. It's an exact science. It's all you got to do. So if you guys want to get consistent, please, the website is thestudydoc.com. Check out my course, The 5 Pillars to Studying Less Getting Better Grades. Check it out. Okay? So, consistency. The next thing up. I think we've hit studying. We've hit all that on the head. Are we good with that, John? Can we get over to Premed side now a little bit?
Oh, yes. Yes.
Okay. So, you want to go to New York for medical school. You want to be ortho sports med. You got this low GPA. You're trying to get back at it, right? And you're trying to figure out, how do we come back from this? The very first thing I want to say, oftentimes, guys, what's the expression? If you fall off the horse, just get right back on. Sometimes you need to go ahead and put that horse back in the barn and learn how to ride the horse. And so for you guys who have low GPAs, who are struggling with this, who are in the heat of it, instead of signing up for another full course load the next semester, maybe it would be in your best interest to take it down to the bare minimum courses you can take, and to then learn how to study and focus on implementing and improving your studying steadily, and then you can amp up your course load. So for you, John, right, you just finished up, what month is it, December? You finished up your 3rd semester. Your 4th semester is coming up. I hope you're not enrolled in 15 classes. Oh, snap. He is, right? So, John, how did I know, right? Because you're like, oh, you know what? It's going poorly for me before. I done dropped some classes, so I'm trying to enroll in more. That's what we do. And on top of that, John is working 30 hours a week. And not only is John working 30 hours a week, John works night shift. So let me ask you guys, if John has been struggling with his current class load, he's enrolled in a similar class load for next semester, he's working 30 hours a week and working night shifts, do you guys think he's going to be more successful next term? John, you're not allowed to tell on yourself. Don't nod your head no. Make them tell on you, right? Yeah. Make them tell on you. Yeah, it's rough. It's tough. It's difficult. And right, and this is the obstacles that some students have. You got to work, got to pay the bills, and at the same time, you got to go to school. You got to figure it out. But you have to recognize then, John, that you have a different student path than the average student, right? Mm-hmm. A lot of your classmates, they don't work full time.
Yeah.
Right?
True.
So if you're going to compete with them, they're talking about quarter hours, right? Or semester hours and how many units you're taking. You got to take less classes than them. You got to take less classes than them. Slow it down, because you're diverting 30 hours of time, of energy, of focus elsewhere. Not to mention your sleep is jacked up because you're up at night.
It's true. Mm-hmm.
So is your brain fresh, or do you constantly feel tired?
Constantly feel tired. I honestly, like, I sleep pretty much all day. Like, I try to get up, but it's like, oh my God, it's a struggle to get up to do something. So
So if you're struggling just to get up and do it, when you actually even the one day you actually do it, it don't go well, do it.
Yeah.
Right.
It doesn't.
Do you guys know,
It
I'm
doesn't.
so sick right now and tired right now. And my voice is even starting to get that rasp to it. You guys know from coaching, when I get sick, we do coaching, we do like 6 hours, 7 hours. By hour 7, man, I am deep in it. My voice is gonna start dropping. But we have to recognize, if we are tired, if we are fatigued, if we are beat down, we're not going to be successful. So we have to recognize, you guys who are pre-meds, who have real obligations, like having a job because you got to make money, you shouldn't be taking a full load. And I was joking about 15 classes, but if everyone is taking 4 or 5 classes, you should be trying to take 3 classes. Because that difference is going to allow you to get the A's. And even if it takes you a little bit longer to graduate, again, you don't get credit for the attempt. You get credit for graduating. You get credit for having a high GPA and getting into medical school. You don't get credit because you took 5 units. Oh, everyone else taking 5 units. I'm taking, or 5 classes. I'm taking 5 classes. You know, I'm working full time, and you bomb the classes. You won't get credit for that. Med schools don't care. Does this make sense to everybody? So if you guys are a pre-med and you find yourself, you're overwhelmed, your GPA is struggling, you've got to strip things back. The other way I see this play out, John, is that people will struggle first year, struggle early in second year, but then they start seeing their friends say, oh, you got to get involved in extracurriculars. You got to start doing this. You got to start doing this. Got to build your resume. And then they start adding more things onto their plate when they're already drowning academically. And then not only do they drown more academically, but they also don't do well in their extracurriculars because they can't really get the extracurriculars the focus they deserve because they're so upset, so depressed, so sad about what they're doing in the classroom. They're so worn down, balancing 50,000 things. So if your GPA as a pre-med is not where you want it to be, it's not time to add more things on. It's time to take things off the plate so you can be strong in that. Then once you start developing at really strong, right, GPA, you're studying to be more efficiently, you're studying more efficient, and you're getting the GPA improving, then you start adding things onto your plate when you can handle it. You don't add them all at once. You don't do research, clinical research. One at a time. One at a time. There's no need to rush. John, in your case, you're 3.1, 3 semesters in. So you're going to need to do at least an extra year of classes because you want to bring that GPA up. So me telling you is there's no rush to get into medical school right away. Don't feel pressure to start studying for the MCAT this summer. Instead, take your time, get your grades right? You're in the 5 pillars now. Learn how to study. Start taking slow classes, then add on more classes, then add on the extracurriculars and build your career. But if the GPA stays low or gets lower, and this is what happens, this is where people mess up, is they think, oh, I'm doing all right. My GPA is 3.1. I'm in range of being competitive for medical school. And John, do you tell yourself that? Oh, I'm right there. I'm right there.
Yeah.
And so what they tell themselves is, oh, I'm right there. I'm just going to keep trucking. But you keep trucking into what? Upper division classes, into smaller class sizes. The curve changes. And so doing all right becomes what? Doing poorly. And your GPA goes down instead of the nice upward trend. Does that make sense to everybody? If you guys are learning right now, right, an hour and 8 minutes in, if you guys are getting something out of this, like the video right now, comment right now, let me know.
Yeah, well, like, I have a question though. Like,
no, you're not allowed to have a question.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, what?
So, like, okay, so like, you know, everything that you're saying right now, I totally get, and it's like, so like, is it okay if I tell you like all of my classes that I'm currently taking right now? Well,
Nope.
Okay, I'm just gonna
It's
tell.
not okay. It's not okay. The reason it's not okay is because it doesn't matter.
Okay.
Because I don't care if you're taking basket making, PE, or bio or whatever. You've shown, you currently, as constructed, how you set up your schedule, the obligations you put on yourself, right? The things you have to do, the activities, right? And your academic load, you can't handle it. So it doesn't matter what classes you take. It doesn't matter because you're going to take them all eventually anyway. What you should be focused on is how do I get some of this stuff off my plate? How can I take less classes? It doesn't matter which ones you take because eventually you can take them all. But you want to try to, if your question was about balancing your schedule, try to balance it, some easier classes, some humanities, some sciences. But the point is that you guys got to recognize, it doesn't matter which classes you drop, just drop some.
Okay.
Before the term starts so you're not withdrawing and getting incompletes, John. Come on, we're gonna be come on. This semester is actually going to be different. It must be different. Okay? Exactly. Regular Joe just said it. Regular Joe, I appreciate you coming back from Troll Land to talk some sense in this comment box. Start with 12, which is the bare minimum to get financial aid, and then go up. It's not complicated. And as a matter of fact, instead of damaging your science GPA more, maybe you better be better off taking a semester with all humanities classes. I don't know. But many students won't do that. Why? Because we're in a rush. Oh, I can't do that. That's going to slow me down. Terry, what up? Does everybody understand? How many of y'all out there, let John know he's not the only one who's trying to rush, who's failing and failing and failing, but it's like, no, I'm going to sign up for the same amount of classes. Even though last semester I signed up for 5, I had to drop 2. I'm going to sign up for 5 again, and I'm going to drop 2. I'm going to sign up for 5 again, I'm going to drop 2. How many of y'all are in that loop? Because I know it ain't John, because I address it in my Dominate Pre-Med course, because I know you guys do this. John ain't the first one. That's the reality. I had to address it because I'm like, this is what happens. But it would be different. 5 more classes. It's not. Take your time, guys. From an old gray beard to young people who don't have gray in their beard, it's all right. Even my non-traditional people, take your time. Because again, you don't get credit for the attempt. If you're non-traditional and you're older and you rush, and actually this is the conversation I was having. So I was talking to the post-bac program director earlier, and he was talking to these students. He's like, yeah, a lot of students come into post-bac programs because they're trying to rush. And what they fail to recognize is that in life sometimes you're so dead set on finding a shortcut, and you spend all this energy and time and money on trying to find a shortcut that taking the long way around would have ended up being faster and more efficient and more effective in the end. And for a lot of pre-med students who try to cut corners, try to rush the process, they end up applying not once, but 2, 3 times. And so did you really save yourself time, or would you have been better off working on your GPA, getting things tight, and just applying once? You didn't save yourself any time. You cost yourself money and stress and anguish and uncertainty for nothing. Yes, yes? Does that make sense to everybody? You guys understand what I'm saying? You guys are in such a hurry to do a shortcut, you mess around and end up taking the long way. I've done this many times, right? Where I'm like, oh, we can just cut through here. I do this, we go to theme parks with the kids. And I'm like, oh, we can just cut through here. Turns out we cannot cut through there, and we got to run all the way back around, and we got to backtrack, and it's a pain in the butt. So don't do this to yourself. Don't be me. Be better. Oh, what happened? I think we just lost John. Oh, I think John accidentally lost his connection. Yeah, Terry's taking the long way around, non-traditional single mom. But yeah, keeping you on point, right towards that MD. So, yeah, exactly, Priscilla. We'll get it when you're ready for it, guys. I apologize we lost John there, but it's good. We're an hour and 15. This is too long of a session. But I hope you guys are benefiting from this and understanding some key takeaways from tonight, right? So this was a long coaching session. I apologize. The comments were distracting me a little bit, but then also John's a complex case, and I want to spend a lot of time on this because everyone thinks a TikTok video or a tip is going to turn their academic career around, right? But the reality is, guys, is your struggles as a student, if you're not getting the grades you want, it's more complex than that, guys. Your issue is bigger than that. What it takes to be an excellent student is more than that. What it takes to get into medical school is more than a snap of the fingers. It's more than one thing. There's a lot of things that factor in that go into you becoming and getting competitive for medical school and getting in. So I encourage all of you guys to recognize, stop trying to take shortcuts. Stop thinking that one little thing is gonna fix you. Stop thinking that one failure is gonna kill you. And recognize that life is a series of ups and downs and hills and peaks and all these things. And all you can do is continue to make your best better. You guys know I got 2 missions every day: to help someone and then to get better. Because if I can get better just a little bit today, that means today's better than yesterday. And you guys gotta look at your pre-med careers like that. You look at your academic careers that way. Is how can I make today better than yesterday? How can I make tomorrow better than today? And if you focus on that and take it one day at a time, you're gonna be all right. You're gonna find yourself being less anxious. You find yourself being less depressed because you recognize that past failure isn't you. You're more than that. You're going to recognize you don't have to be anxious about the future because you're going to rise to the bar. You're going to meet that future where it needs to be. Do we understand what I'm saying right now? We gotta get better than that, right? We gotta move through. Yeah, Valerie. Like I said, I was a master procrastinator. Of course, I still struggle with consistency. That's the reality. Is like, and again, I wish I could tell you there's like some magic wand, like, oh yeah, it's called the like no, just be consistent as a student. If you can get, but the problem is consistency is so hard. It's like in a relationship. Again, I'll do relationships. Is being it's like being a parent. Actually, I think it's actually that's a better. We'll use that analogy. I've done enough relationship stuff for today. Being a parent is not about always being the best parent. It's not about It's not about being a perfect parent all the time, but it's about being a consistent, positive presence in your kid's life. This is my take on it, at least. If you want your kid to be a good kid and grow up and have a future, you don't have to be the best all the time. You don't have to be perfect all the time, right? You just got to be consistently there, giving your best. That's what I think parenting is. And I think pre-medding is much the same, and being a good student is the same thing. It's just, you don't have to be perfect every day. There's going to be days where you fall short of your goal. But what are you doing to get back on that and to be consistent and to get at it and chip away at that big mountain that is the A? What are you doing to chip away at the big mountain that is becoming a competitive pre-med? Oh my gosh, should I do that? The double D course, Dominate Dating. Well, you guys know Shannon and I did that series on relationships. What was that, like 2 years ago now? Maybe I'll bring Shannon on here and we'll start doing we'll bring back the relationship talk. We'll talk about relationships. So Amon, I have lots of tips for community college students. Actually, I have a whole section on community college success in my Dominate Pre-Med course. So for community college students, you got to make and I think I have a whole video on community college students. But for community college students, you've got to run. It's like we started this. Let's bring it all back full circle. We talked about the fleas earlier. Community college is the short jar. When you go to community college, you're in the short jar. So recognize you're in the short jar and be prepared when the jar comes off, when you transfer, that you're going to have to jump higher than you've jumped before if you expect to succeed. That's what I'll say. And if you're in community college while you're there, don't lower the bar for what you're capable of. I want you to jump as hard as you can, and I want you to be hitting your head on the top of that glass beaker. Don't lower your standard because there may be lower standards around you. Okay? All right. This was too long of a session. I apologize for that, but I thought it was a good session today. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I'm going to go take this raspy voice and rest it. I'm Dr. Pinesett. I am the Study Doc. My website is thestudydoc.com. If you guys are serious about getting better, I hope you guys will join us every single week here and get some of this good stuff. Monday, right, is live. Wednesday's live coaching. If you want to be a coaching student, if you want to be John next week, make sure you guys pay attention to my social media. I'm at the Study Doc across all my social media platforms. And to see what the contest is for next week, to see if you can become a coaching student on here. If you guys are ready to really level up and get the whole kit and caboodle, then get over to my website, thestudydoc.com, and get into a course or a program. Like, this is coaching, right? We do coaching all day, every day. On Saturdays for my students, we have coaching coming up this Saturday. So there's come, be with us, get with us, be great. I thank you guys very much. I'll see you guys next time. As always, we got to remember, right? Whatever obstacles we face, whatever's in front of us, whatever reasons we think we can't succeed, those are just excuses, guys. Stop lying to yourself. Stop telling yourself that you aren't great, that you can't be great, that you can't be successful. I'm here to tell you, as a former failure, you can be successful, you can be great, but you got to let go of those excuses. That's all they are. You got to let go of the excuses and just start dominating, guys. So remember, it's no excuses, just dominate. I'll see you guys next time. Thank you guys so much. I'll see you guys later.